Machine structure. The machine structure is the load carrying and supporting member of the machine tool. Means here all the loads and vibration of the tool will be stored. The design and construction of CNC machine should be such that it meets the main objective. Those are high precision and repeatability, reliability, efficiency. In order to meet the requirement, the numerically controlled machine tool should have a structure with the following characteristics. It does not deform or vibrate beyond the permissible limits under the action of static and dynamic forces to which it is subjected. Means the machine structure should not deform or vibrate during the working when the static load or constant load and or the dynamic loads or the changing loads are focusing on it. Then the static load of a machine tool results from the weight of the slides and the workpiece and the force due to cutting. The static loads means constant loads which are the self weight of the slides and also the weight of the workpiece, the weight of the tool and also the force exerted during cutting. Then the dynamic loads, a term used for the constantly changing force acting on the structure while the movement is taking place. Means the dynamic loads or the changing loads is due to the movement of the parts or workpiece. Its design should be such that the thermal distortion is minimum. Means the heat generated due to the processing or machining that can produce distortion in the machine structure, so that distortion should be as minimum as possible. The machine tool should be protected from external and internal heat sources. Some of these heat sources are from where we can get this heat. Those are electrical motors or electric motors, then friction in mechanical drives, gearboxes, bearings and guideways, machining processes, temperature of surrounding objects. The machine structure design should be such that the removal of swap or the cheap or cut material or waste material should be very easy. Means that chips would not fall on the slide wheel. If it will fall on the slide wheel, that will get struck there and it will interrupt the machining process. Then guideways and slideways. Machine tool, the guideways are used to serve the following purpose: to control the direction or line of action of the carriage or the table on which a tool or a workpiece is held. Means the guideways provide a path to the carriage or the table where the workpiece will be placed. Then it is used to absorb all the static and dynamic loads. Means the static loads mean that self weight of the workpiece, the tool or the slideways and the forces exerted during the cutting. And dynamic loads means the changing load which is due to the motion or movement of the workpiece. The guideways may be an integral part of the machine structure or may be mounted separately on the structure. Means the guideways can be a fixed one which will be fixed on the machine structure, and that could be also a separate part which will be fixed during the working and also can be removed after the work. The guideways may be horizontal or vertical or also it can be inclined. In a CNC machine, the design of guideways or slideways should be like that which will reduce the friction, reduce wear, satisfy the requirement of movement of the slides, then improve smoothness of the drive. Factors influencing the design of guideways means which factor should be considered during the design of the guideways. First one, that is geometric and kinematic accuracy. The dimension of the guideways should be correct one. The position in relation to work area means according to the work area, the position of the guideways should be a perfect one. Provision of for adjustment of play. Rigidity means it should be rigid one which should be able to absorb all the loads and vibration during the working. Then it should have damping capability, velocity slide, friction characteristic, wear resistance, protection against swarf and damage, protective guards to safeguard the guideways against accidental damage, freedom from unnecessary restraints, effective lubrication and efficient lubrication system. Types of guideways. We have various types of guideways like friction guideways, which is also divided into 4 types, that is V guideway, flat guideways, dovetail guideways, cylindrical guideways. Then second type is anti-friction linear motion or LM guideways. Then frictionless guideways, that is of 2 types, hydrostatic guideways and aerostatic guideways. Friction guideways. These guideways find wide application in conventional machine tool due to their low manufacturing cost and good damping properties. Means these type of guideways are very low cost and have good damping properties. They operate under condition of sliding friction and do not have a constant coefficient of friction. Means the coefficient of friction will change. The frictional coefficient varies with the sliding velocity. First type of friction guideways, that is V guideways. The V guideways are widely used in machine tool, especially on lathe beds. We have already seen in lathe bed the V type of guideways. Generally the shape of the guideways is of like letter V or alphabet V. One of the advantage of V guideways is that the parallel alignment of the guideway with the spindle axis is not affected by wear. The guideways wear away rapidly due to lack of bearing surface. Here no bearing surface will be provided, so more friction will be created, so that there is a chance of wearing out of the guideway. These are difficult to manufacture. Then flat type of guideways. These guideways have better load bearing capabilities than other guideways. These are easier to manufacture. In such guideways, the chip accumulation and lubrication problems are very serious. Means here the chip removal is not easy. The chip can stalk inside and that can interfere the working. These do not wear uniformly. Here the wear is very discontinuous. These guideways are suitable for heavy load transmission. Dovetail guideways. These guideways have large load carrying capacity and tends to check the overturning tendency under eccentric loading. They are preferred when both horizontal and vertical location of moving parts are considered. Then cylindrical guideways. These guideways are very efficient for relatively short transverse and light loads. Means these are not at all suitable for heavy loads. Then I will come to anti-friction linear motion or LM guideways. These guideways are used on CNC machine tools to reduce amount of wear, friction, heat generation and improve smoothness of the movement. The anti-friction guideways are employed to overcome the relatively high coefficient of friction in metal-to-metal contact and the resulting limitation addressed above. The huge rolling element in between the moving and stationary element of the machine. The types of anti-friction guideways are linear bearing with balls and linear bearing with rollers. Means the bearing used here, that can be a ball bearing or that can be a roller bearing. Frictionless guideways. There are two types of frictionless guideways used here. One is hydrostatic guideways and another one is aerostatic guideways. The hydrostatic guideways. In these guideways, the surface of the slide is separated from the guideway by a very thin film of fluid supplied at a pressure high as 300 bar. Means there will be a liquid film between the guideways. In hydrostatic guideways, frictional wear and stick slips are entirely eliminated. Means here no friction will be generated. So no heat will be generated. So no wear is possible. In such guideways, a high degree of dynamic stiffness and damping is obtained. Both the characteristics contributing a good machining capability. Owing to high cost and difficulty in assembly, their application is limited. Means this is a very high cost and the assembly is quite difficult also. To manufacture this one, it is quite difficult. So the application is very limited here. Then aerostatic guideways. In these guideways, the slide is raised in a cushion of compressed air which entirely separated the slide and guideway surface. Means here compressed air film will be used in between the slide and the guideways. So here also the friction is zero, so that the heat generation will be also zero and no wear is possible. This is also quite costly.